and then
We got
we'll
5
tell them
minutes.
we're live, we're
Oh, we're
here.
live. Oh, okay.
You
Let me
know,
stop stretching.
don't worry about it. I just got out the shower. Um, we're going to talk about exactly what you think we're going to talk about today, which is uh,
How could we not, right? How could we not?
how could we not? So we're to skip cyber dating, and we're going
Yep,
to jump
we'll get
into
to that at another time.
yeah, because that's going to be there. But the unfortunate death of another rapper, I'm not gonna say legend, but another rapper, and another unfortunate gun violence death, and in the community, in our community, period. So let's do a little intro. Let's jump into this because I think this is a fun topic for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
was
y-
I
yeah,
was expecting no more doom news. I like,
me me too. Me
I
too.
was okay. I, I'm glad I didn't get up because normally I'd be trying to get up and be okay.
It's like,
Anyway,
yeah, let me stretch it out, stretch my lungs out, and then all of a sudden it's like click, and I'm over here looking like this, and
yeah,
hey, welcome back
yeah.
to the
Hey,
show. So, yeah,
good,
unfortunately,
good evening.
yeah, good evening, everybody. Good evening to all the
Yeah,
ladies out there.
yeah. Good
Uh,
evening. We're clowning, but that's really in preparation for a kind of more serious, not a kind of, a more serious topic. Um, reflecting our condolences go out to Take Off, his family, his friends, anyone that loved him. But this has sparked a conversation and around music and, as you said, even mentioned gun violence
mhm.
and its effect on our community. What say you?
I like the title that we kind of discussed, the role of gangster rap in the black community,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what I saw play itself out in this whole incident. Let's look at the scene. Dice game sounds like a gangster rap to me. Sound like something from gangster rap to me. And I'm not saying that there ain't people from other places that do dice games. Everybody likes to shoot dice apparently somewhere. But this is things that they talk about. The things that they talk about, they perpetuate in their music. Some of them are actually ending up dying in some of the similar ways that people rap about. And I don't know if anyone has gotten the exact 100% details of who actually did the shooting, but I think it really matters not who did the shooting. It was another black man senselessly killed uh, over nothing, like literally over nothing. Like a simple dice game with people getting frustrated, people losing their pride, and it's always what it seems to be uh, with black men right now. I mean, I'm sorry, ladies, if you have some fault in this. I'll get to that in a little bit, but as black men, like, dude, just chill the fuck out. Like, all of this is literally over nothing, bro. Just someone hurt your feelings. Like, how old are you? Like, how many years past kindergarten have you been that you let another man say something or do something that hurts your feelings to the point that you want to go out and shoot them and kill them? Like, this is ridiculous. At some point, these same guys talk about how the young community or the young kids of the community need to do better. We need to do better. We need to do better. And then they go out and do things like this. So I'm not passing the blame or putting the blame on anyone. I'm just saying we as black men, and they've been saying this shit since Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, that we need to step up in our community. Like, this violence is the first step, or ending this violence is the first step to actually building a community, the community that everybody dreams of, that wants to be a black community. But we can't, because every time we take a step forward like this, somebody shoots somebody and kills somebody and takes us back. So that's my little soliloquy, right quick. I had to get that off my chest. I'm so disappointed all the time. I'm just seeing all this footage of black men on Facebook fighting or arguing, getting into it, and we're always shooting one another. And I'm not telling you to go out and shoot anybody else, but like, just stop shooting at one. Like, what is the whole point? Like, so what, you shot at somebody, like, what's the point? I just don't get it. So I'm sorry. I've rambled.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Uh, well, the this topic came about because we were going to do another topic, but this topic came about. I read a post by Lakeith Stanfield of Get Out and um, a couple other movies. I can't. Judas and the Black Messiah. Anyway, and he said, if you're for gangster rap, you can't also be for black. And it's one of those things as devil advocate. So in this music, though, are they not? Uh, is it not art that they're expressing as to what they see on an everyday basis? Because I mean, if that's what you see, that's what you see. So I'm just being that's just a
No,
question.
no, 100%. And that is a true statement. Like this is not for a lot of these guys, this is not a portrayal of an imagination of some Scarface tale of them. This is stuff like they've actually seen in their hood. A lot of these dudes have actually done some of the stuff that they're rapping about because, the limits have expired so they can kind of talk about it now. But, you know, it is art. It is your form of art. It's your form of creativity. Is your form of getting out there. But there is this thing called the parental advisory label that gets put on certain music. And as a young man, I didn't understand really how dangerous um, suggestion, the power of suggestion, can be to a very formidable mind that
Mhm,
is looking for answers.
mhm,
We see it as adults when people get radicalized for certain organizations, or run up in the Capitol buildings in the name of people telling them that something didn't go the right way, or as we just recently saw somebody going and breaking in the house trying to break somebody's kneecaps. Like, the power of suggestion is really deep. And my dad, I was going to tell this story. So um the first gangster rap CD. I don't even know if you consider the Brat gangster rap, but just the first rap CD.
The
It's
brat?
the
Okay.
Brat. Look, this is how hard this was. Like,
Sanctified,
yeah,
yeah.
Funkdafied. Dog, that was, man. That was
It was a hit. Absolutely, it's still a hit.
man.
Yeah.
Still hitting. But see, I never. I got home. I was so proud. I went to Best Buy. Bought that CD, dog. Got home. I had the stereo. That's when you had the stereo with the CD player with the two tapes and everything with the speakers. Man, I came home and I'd already listened to some parental advisory music, but by the time the Brat came out, Snoop Dogg had already dropped his album. Humpty Hump was big. West Coast gangster rap was getting big. This is funkified. Like, I'd heard it on the radio. Wasn't nothing too bad about that. Man, turn that on and played that unedited version in the house with the speakers up.
Oh,
Man, let me tell you what. Look, my dad came in that thing, kicked that door open, and was like, look, he pushed every button on that radio thing. And he looked at me, he said, give it to me. He didn't know what it was. He said, give it.
yeah, not in
I
this
was, I'm
not
sitting up
in
here,
not in here.
young 12, 13-year-old Omie. So I hit the button, he get it out. Clack. Just breaks it. He's like, you will not be listening to music like this in my house.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So forever live the Walkman, you know, and when you went out to dinner, you know, we turned the gangster rap on, and when we were in the car with my sister, we turned the gangster rap on really, really loud. Tupac,
Okay.
Ambition, as a rider. But I say that because back then I didn't understand how hip hop music could influence me to do things that they said do.
Mhm.
However, now as a wiser, older man, I look back on it and go, as a fragile young boy looking to kind of prove yourself, and then everything that everybody was listening to around us was gangster rap. I remember dudes started coming to school with khakis and chucks on and stuff. Like, it was whatever was going on in the music, and I was not allowed to do any of that. But now I listen to stuff like 21 Savage, dog, and I'm kind of appalled. I'm like, Jesus, I hope there's no little children listening to this man talking about running around beating niggas up in the club and this, that, and the other, and just glorifying this kind of behavior.
I think that's the part. I you know, I would ask, is there a way to express this art and this creativity in a way that does not glamorize the lifestyle? Because, like you say, and again, this is me uh, speaking as somebody who grew up in the suburbs, so I'm not even gonna get on here and pretend. It's a lot of things that, even in the songs, again, we weren't exposed to this stuff one as like all the time. You know,
Hmm.
I guess gangster rap was popular, of course, NWA, like you said, you mentioned Tupac, Biggie, all that, but it didn't seem like it was just all you heard. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And it was, I don't know, I guess, and maybe because I'm young, it seemed a little more grimy and less glamour.
yeah.
You
Well,
know, so so it did, but I could be totally wrong. But again, looking at who the target, maybe the target audience is per se, these are, coming, these would be young men, as you mentioned,
hmm
that's trying to find their way,
hmm
maybe in homes without fathers, maybe,
yeah,
who, again, you looking for, who don't have the resources, which again, this ties in all different kinds of what came first, the chicken or the egg. And I
yeah,
saw
for sure.
arguments of whether or not, you can't just blame the music. Music has nothing to do with it. But I think to say is an ignorant statement.
Yeah,
It has it's part of the problem. And then, I think people, they're, well, again, that's not the problem. We shouldn't be talking about that. But it's like, well, when do we talk about it? It's the same thing, like you said, like with gun violence. When is a good time to talk about it?
yeah,
Because at some point, we have to take our own community, our own actions, hold our own creative processes, those putting out that art, hold them accountable to do and present better.
yeah.
And like you say, sometimes you have these artists who've been in the game making all kinds of money, seeing, traveling the world
hmm
for years, who we know are not or should be elevated out of
Yeah,
that situation,
yeah,
still glamorizing that
yeah,
lifestyle. And it's like, but you don't really live that every day. You go into business meetings and you do, so it's like, at what point do you say, even though, yeah, this was my life, but this is not what's creating all this glamour anymore.
yeah,
And this is not the way to be, because again, like you said, with it being our young men that are dying so disproportionately in the street, again, like you said, where does that leave the leadership and where does that leave the black family?
yeah.
Because
I mean,
it
it,
continues to create a cycle of disproportionate weight for the black woman. Again, then now we're starting to tie in all different.
it's the truth, though. It's the
Yeah,
truth. You think this man who had a family, now there is no father there. If there was a father in that household, and that does create a vacuum. And so there's another man that steps in, but it's not the same. And I think at a certain point, you know, there should be enough pride in your family that you don't go get into messed up situations like that. I think that, like, at a certain point you should feel like, you know what, it's more important to me to make this money, do this deal, but I see it's getting grimy in here. Let me get out of here, because I'm gonna go home to my wife and kids, because I
well,
got to make it home safe.
well,
you know it,
I would argue there's not a lot of wife go home to a wife.
yeah.
Again, this type of music that we're talking about also perpetuates the degradation of women.
That's what I was meant to say. Sorry, let
So
me let
yeah,
me interrupt.
so
This is
it's
important.
like,
This
okay, yeah, go ahead.
I remember why it wasn't as grimy in the 90s, because to counteract this hip hop
We
gangster shit, we
had
had
that R&B
R&B.
love. We had
Yeah,
that,
you
yeah.
had that. And everybody would do some kind of rap with Casey and JoJo. With Dear Mama, the rappers would really kind of get into the R&B and really spread the love, and it really was about love. But right now, all you have in the music is, I mean, R&B, really and truly, where the fuck is it? I
Well,
mean,
it's blended so much with pop music a lot now too. So,
It's gone.
like I said, the lines get really blurry.
Yep.
And, I grew up, of course, I knew about rap music, Pope Pimp, I mean, gangster rap, but I'm more of a just music lover.
Hmm.
So I kind of listen and still do to everything. The older I get, like I said, the gangster, I can't, it like hurts my ears to hear because I'll be honest, my brother turned me on to Migos before they blew up when they
Yeah.
were still underground. And I tell you, to work out, like I said previously, if it wasn't somebody like I needed that energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it wasn't necessarily the words that they were saying, but it's all of
Energy.
it. Because
It's the
really, if
energy.
you listen to the words, a lot of it is the same, but
Oh yeah.
this, that, get a whole, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So it really was the music, the vibe, the whole vibe, energy of it. But now, like you said, to hear it and to it, it just hits different. And like you said, I'm not as easily influenced
Yeah.
either. So I know as soon as I hear it what I'm going to listen to, what I'm not going to listen to, what I allow the kids to listen to, what they can't listen to. But it's just all over sad, and it's one of those things. It's like we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So, like you said, where is that?
Well, it's really, I think, and I'm the wrong person to probably say this, but I'm an outsider looking in. But it goes with the parental advisory label on the music. Like there has to become an effort to be for parents to be more parents. Like there was a point where there was certain music. Like I remember, and once again, I'm not trying to just brag and say my parents were great. I mean, they were very strict security officers in their house. But I remember finding a Richard Pryor 8 track and listening to it, and they were gone. And I didn't think nothing of it. Like this is yours. This is your
Mhm,
music. This is your 8 track. So you
mhm.
come home, I'm listening to Richard Pryor cleaning up the house. Oh, I get in trouble again. Because Richard Pryor was a filthy foul mouth comic, in the house. And you don't think about it, but when you're shaping a young man in a society that is geared to kill him, geared to set him up for failure, geared to allow the cops to have any reason to pull you over. And you want to try to tell this young man, like, you don't need to be listening to this music like this out loud because it can be seen as offensive to people and it makes you mad. You're like, man, it's messed up. Like, this is my music, this is my people, da, 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 da. It's my generation. But we don't teach our kids how to play the game anymore. We always, and I don't think anybody does. I think everybody's just trying to like, they're trying to play checkers on the Monopoly board, and the game is still Monopoly, and nobody's winning. So I do think as a parent, you have to take heed of what your child is listening to. And it's tough right now from what I hear because they have so many different places that they can listen to music and so many different devices. And even me in IT, like there's a humongous market for trying to get parental controls on different devices to keep kids from watching certain things on YouTube and checking out certain music and stuff like that. It's a huge deal. But the technology is just it's hard to keep up with. So I can imagine it's very hard for parents. But I think it also comes down to like you got to have those talks, about this. Like, hey, this is not the path. This might be something fun and it looks like that, but like maybe show them the real results. Like, let's go look on the internet. Let's look at who's been selling drugs and who's gotten arrested for selling drugs, or who's really killed somebody and what they ended up with. And I think maybe that would help kids understand like this man might have did this, but he got lucky because he never got caught, or he never did it in the first place. But the thing is, I think you can't, as a parent, put the responsibility on the artist. Like you can't tell, dude, like you need to put some clothes on your naked statues. You know, like
Well, that's why it's tough. And that because I would argue you have to put some of that responsibility because I would argue that many of the households that have the luxury of these conversations that you're saying to have is not where we see the issue.
true,
We had these issues are seen amongst those who are without the resources, who parents are maybe just I mean, working shit, I just bought 18 eggs for $5. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So where you have parents who love their children, surely, and but they're trying to survive,
Yeah.
so that it's caught up in the circle. So then again, like you said, even with even with children whose parents are in the house, these kids, one, they're smart as hell.
Mhm.
Like you said, and the parental thing nowadays, what's that ain't gonna do nothing.
No.
They understand too much.
Yep. Yeah.
So um it has to be, I think it's one of those things where it's easy to say parents need to be parents. And that is true. There are a lot of parents that could do a lot better job, surely. But there you have to spread the wealth, you spread the blame, and everybody has to step up and do better.
Okay.
Because if not, we're going to continue to have these situations. We're going to continue to have these conversations of condolences. You know, again with our black men dying in the street, gun violence. It's just a repetitive, and like you said, now it becomes something. Um, it just becomes a speaking head for us to just talk about. But really, what are we going to do? Are we going to stop buying? Uh, Supporting that, like, what needs to be done? Because and what I've heard that his it wasn't necessarily they were trying to shoot him, but again that becomes a gun violence
Mhm.
uh, uh, conversation as well then. But again, this is a lifestyle where, well, and we in Texas, so it's not just a lifestyle, folks. Again, it's gun violence conversation. Why you gotta have a gun everywhere you go?
Yeah.
But um, and then you mentioned, just because somebody gets mad, well, that's spoken like somebody who has reached a certain level of maturity. Again, if
Mhm.
you don't know how to deal with your anger, your frustration, and I have a gun on me, and I'm always inundated with this type of negative, this glamorized lifestyle. Yeah, shoot the club up. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So it's a lot of things in combination, and it's trying to untangle this mess. And where do you start? And it's like because we get so overwhelmed, I think of where to start. You don't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the and that's the whole thing. Nobody wants to take because any piece of this puzzle that you pull apart, someone's going to get mad at. Because if you censor the artist, then it's a freedom of speech thing. If you try to take, the gun thing away, it's the, whatever, blah blah, my guns and blah 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 blah, BS BS BS. Um, and it does. You're like, well, we could start with building awareness. I say, great. Build awareness to not shoot each other. Like that's cool, but we have to get to the real root of the problem. Is there are people who will just like you said, they're doing the best they can to feed their families, but it's not really enough. With the way that inflation is rising, and luckily wages are slightly going up, but even though with those wages going up, like you said, the prices of food are going up. And in the black community, me and my father once again we're talking about median incomes in areas in Dallas, and so he's like, what do you think the difference is in these areas of median income? I said I would guarantee the biggest difference is two-person households and amount of people who graduated from college. And he goes, you think so? I'm like, well, one, yeah, because I know in these southern areas there are more single parent households than there are in the northern areas, and that makes less money to come in the house, and so it does make you know uh $5 for eggs and $10 for milk, like you say, sting a little harder, and somebody has to work some overtime to make sure the kids eat. But that does leave the kids at home with a babysitter that might be like a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old who's also not supposed to be jamming this, but who can stop them right now? They're not home. So I do think, like you said, part of the blame does go on the government. Like there has to be some point where some of this stuff has to be reined in, because it's starting to become impossible for even parents in two-parent households who make a decent amount of money to have the time to even parent their kids.
Well, I wouldn't put it on the government per se. I wouldn't do that because we know how that'll go. It'll be a over because that's the other thing. People say, "Well, what about punk rockers?" To that, I say, "Well, that's not my problem. You know,
Mhm.
that's not my community, right? I'm sure they may have people advocating for that, but we know if we get the government involved, that it's not going to be what we really want, right?
Mhm.
It's going to
Yeah.
be what they want,
Yeah.
and all of this, though, kind of drives that agenda. It's so many things put in this pot of black societal detrimental gumbo
Mhm.
that now all those flavors have blended together. So how do you just take out one grain of salt? You know what? So I wouldn't, like I said, I think again, if we put all the if we put the responsibility on we're just passing the buck. The
Mhm.
responsibility has to start, like you said, within each of us, which again goes back to previous episode. You got to get you right
Mhm.
so that you know how to fend off all of this.
Yeah.
And you can do that for your offspring and then somebody else's offspring. But like you said, when you have grown people
Mhm.
who this music perpetuates and influences their lives, how can you expect it not to influence a child
Yeah.
or a young adult?
Oh yeah.
It's it's asinine to think
Yeah.
that that would occur.
Yeah. And I we had some I think that we have to really figure out what we can do as, like you said, as a community. Like, and I know people want to scream out, go to church. People want to scream out, take this, take that. But I think it's the overall. We have to change maybe the overall uh, modus operandi of our community to an education based thing. Like it seems like entertainment is what a lot of us want to find our wealth in, and we don't want to utilize education. And I'm not necessarily politicking for another $100,000 in college debt, because that's ridiculous if you want to do that to try to go make more money. But there's a lot of affordable options to go through and learn things like coding skills, um, you know tech skills, and heck, a lot of different things that you can do now besides just go to college to improve yourself. And I think if we were a community that was more focused on education being a priority, especially with our children, then maybe at the point that they do turn to grown adults, that everybody won't be looking for the opportunity to be, um, what did Obama say? Everybody can't be uh, LeBron with the jump shot, or Lil Wayne, on the mixtape. Like someone's gonna have to be a designer. Someone's gonna have to be a coder. Someone's gonna have to be some type of business, entrepreneurial management, person. Like we've got to start teaching our kids, and that all these things are options for them. Like what I have my career in right now, I had no idea it was a freaking option when I was in high school. Had I known this was an option, heck, I'd probably be ready to retire right now, with my career. But, I was just told very little. And it's not, part of it is me going and searching and looking for it. And my parents did the best that they could, because they were only taught what they were able to find for themselves. They didn't have the internet and the resources like parents have now to be able to help their kids research. Like we had to go to the library and look up the job that we wanted, unless we knew somebody that had it. So I just want, or think, that if we make our main objective in our community education, instead of going for entertainment, like I said, everybody can't be Nicki Minaj and LeBron and Lil Wayne. Somebody's got to, make six figures by typing on a computer. So maybe that's what an option is. There's no solid answer, I think, to this problem right now.
No, there's no solid answer. No. At this point, the solid answer is to make you better
Yeah, yeah.
because That's the only thing that we can do and control. And so, again, like as I make me better and you make you better, we can make her better or influence. That's we can't make anybody. We can maybe influence for her to and him to be better, and then they can influence and then start a new effect. Because if we just because I say education is big.
Mhm.
Education, but again, if we're looking at a large majority of our black and brown community, the resources that they have for education are very lackluster.
True.
Um, the schools that their house that they go to are not up to par. The education system as a whole here, especially within our community, is right. So that's easy to say, but again, how do we get to that?
Voting is what they're going to say. It's voting. But
Well,
then
you and I know it's not just that though.
it's not just that, but it also becomes with that, it's a want, dog. It's a want to not
Mhm.
to not have what you have now or deal with what you're dealing with, to be frustrated enough to say there's got to be a better way. Something has to be different. I have to be able to do something different to make this work, and then go find that. Like, I don't think anyone necessarily knows the right answer, but there might be someone out there who hasn't gotten frustrated enough that actually does have a good answer for us. And I think part of it is you have to get frustrated to where you want it, and you go look for it yourself, and maybe join other people. And maybe it is truly the awareness. Like, we need to put on black and do a black mile walk, like Susan G. Coleman, like every year, in remembrance of people who died, and try to get people to, like, gun violence is stupid. Like, you know if someone breaks the law, they're trying to kill you, that's fine. But at some point, like, all of this, I've seen guys driving down the street shooting at each other. Like, shooting each other. You chasing each other down to shoot each other. Why? You know, did they really do something that bad? They got some money from you, so they stole some money from you. You
Okay.
know,
Well, but gun law is not gonna change that.
No, 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 no. Gun laws will never change that.
Okay.
Expecting gun laws to change the fact that people have guns is silly. I
Oh,
think you you can enact gun laws, but that's just going to make the responsible people who want to abide by the laws do it, and those fools who don't, they're just going to be. It's just going to make us even more frustrated. So
mhm.
I think dog, I mean, you just have to change people's mindset. You know,
That's it. That's
that's
it. You
it.
gotta change people's mindset. I think as a community, we have to drop a lot of selfishness,
Hmm.
and truly, like you said, find a way for us to come together and heal together so that we can produce something different.
Yeah, because whatever we're producing, it's sad. I can go back and listen to music. I can go back and listen to stand-up comedians. I can go back. You just use media as a representative of history, and just the things that you hear about the black community from black artists and musicians and stuff in media. It's the same shit.
Mhm,
You listen to what Grandmaster Flash, The Message.
mhm.
You just listen to that and go, so what's different? And that's a sad thing, because that song is like 40 something years, damn near 50 years old. And you think, our community, you can play a song that was relevant 50 years ago, and it still seems like that song is written today, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, like you said, it's the sabotage of the outside and the sabotage within
Hmm.
that will continue to make that song relevant for another 50 years unless we each make a decision, or enough of us make a decision to, like you said, have an elevated and a different mindset that's just not about chasing the paper on my own, fucking
Yeah,
hoes over here, and fuck that nigga. I just want his check over there.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
it just none of it sets up and is makes a environment for our community to succeed.
Well, I'm gonna say something, and we talked about this. I guess it was last week. Talked about it, the Cosby Show, and you
Oh,
said like,
oh, listen.
look,
Oh,
you can say whatever you want to say about them pudding pops, but that show was a phenomenal show for anyone, especially in the black community. I mean, you had two people that, Claire Huxtable, the lawyer, Heathcliff, the doctor, you know, and they had a wonderful family, and the family had problems and the family had fun, but it was a black family and they were together, and there was two sets of grandparents. And I'm not saying that everybody can have a family like that, but programming like that is stuff that we had in the 90s, A Different World, Full House, Empty Nest, all these family based programs. What was that? Step by Step, where they had
mhm,
it was
mhm,
like the new Brady Bunch, but it
that's
was all these things about loving one another.
mhm,
And then there was gangs. The NWA was, fuck the police, and that was real, and that did need to come out. And I'm
mhm,
not saying that, the fact of gangster rap, without gangster rap, we as black men would probably still be getting our ass beat, without cameras and without body cam footage right now,
mhm,
because it did bring a lot to um, the area, but it should not have been taken as a tool, a package, a blueprint for you to get your neighborhood, uh, to get your Carter on, to get you a Carter, like that's fine. You want to make the money, dog, but like if it comes at the expense of breaking down your entire community just for you to get yours, like you said, that's selfish. That's selfish beyond any any stretch of the imagination. If it's bringing your community down majorly, and I think it just needs to stop, especially with on our community. I think there's ways for you to make your black market money
mhm,
without bringing the entire community down. Um,
mhm,
but even if you do, you make your black market money, put it back into the community. You know, donate some money to the school. You know, magically drop a bag of cash, to the school. Donation for y'all. Buy some books, or just buy the books and send them to the school. Buy the whole computers and just send it. Magic gift donation to the school. All new computers for the computer lab. Like you said it best. We don't have the resources, the infrastructure in our communities a lot of times to house the internet. So many kids don't have the internet at their house, but they all get a little laptop to take home. What the hell am I gonna do with that? I ain't got internet at the house, you
mhm,
know. But some of these communities in America, the whole city has the internet. You can just walk outside your house and jump on the city's Wi-Fi,
mhm,
but we can't do that in our community because we don't have that type of infrastructure going on. And I think that is why I say we have to vote, because we have to make sure the people that we put in these positions are going to make sure that education and infrastructure are important to us, but also we have to educate ourselves on what the word infrastructure means. So when someone starts yelling it in a political conversation, we don't think they're talking about, a transformer or something. So we got one: education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. Look, that man sat in jail, Gandhi style, for years to change that. And so, you know, eh,
and like you said, and that education doesn't have to be yes, it needs to be formal,
mhm,
but, you know, no, I don't wanna say informal, just education of all sorts. I
yeah,
think educate what
world knowledge.
yes, you put the education, you broaden the mind, the horizon, you show people something different. You give
Mhm,
them something new and greater to hope for and to strive for.
mhm,
Uh, and like you said, it's not gonna change overnight, but these are things that have to be instilled. You know, you pluck somebody out of a bad situation before a certain age and you put them somewhere else and show them something, that's where they're going to be. And even somebody who has been in a bad situation for a while, that's the other part though. If you're in a bad situation for a long time and you keep that mindset, even when you're physically out,
Mm-hmm.
they're still there.
Yep.
So again, it goes back to that mindset because in it all that mindset and that education have to go together because other than that, you just educated a knowledgeable fool,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
you have to have that mindset to go along with that education to want to do better, to want to set a different example, to really want to lead those that are around you, not just in your words or your pumping stance, but they to see your action day in and day out. Your children see your actions day in and day out, and how that reflects and how that can slowly change the community. How again your children seeing how you deal with someone else when you're angry, when you're frustrated, what
Yeah.
that looks like. So it is education, but that mindset has to go with that education too.
Yeah. And I think it comes with a huge thing called self-awareness to realize that, you know, you have to push your child sometimes in a way that you see is better than what you did. Sometimes it's like, you know, it's
That
not
takes,
the
like you said, that takes self-awareness
yeah.
to know that,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not be salty about that.
Yeah. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, look, man, this is how I got here. If you're looking to do better than me, and then not only that, but I like that some of these schools are like, hey, if your kid is getting an education here, you can come after school or after hours and learn with your child. It's like, man, that's dope. Like, you as a parent, you have no clue what's going on, but you can kind of learn, especially if you have multiple kids going into that thing. But like, once again, that comes to that whole thing of like having the time to be able to go and sit in the school between 7 and 9 during the thing. Like, it's a huge thing. You know what it really is? It's a huge involvement with something called community. The money that some of these government entities are keeping away from the communities, which go for programs like after hours daycare.
Mhm,
Or if we're going to bring in, a college can fund a full-blown daycare for people to come in and bring their children so they can go and take school. Like, I remember my mom, we had to sit like in the hallway and just try to be quiet while she was trying to get, I guess it was one more of her math, well, I don't know, one of her 3 degrees that she was getting.
mhm.
But it would have been better if we'd have had the ability to go and just sit somewhere, maybe play computer games and stuff like that. But you know, once again, like, these are all the things that people have to stand up and start demanding of our communities. Like, it's fine for us to sit here and complain about $700 billion or whatever they sent to the Ukraine to fight Russia, but we can't complain enough to get $70 billion, sent over here, like you said, to fix the schools and the
Right.
infrastructure that that our families and our people over here desperately need. But the reason is, once again, is because we're so concerned about hip hop, and that we're not really concerned about getting a solution. And once again, I think that brings up the unfortunate circle where we have to say that this is a tough cycle, and without making broad sweeping changes, we're just going to probably end up losing more black people, black men, because to change the mindset of one person is valuable, but changing the mindsets of a lot of people is powerful. And so, if you have any ideas, and now I'm kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really wrapping this up. But I used to think the breast cancer awareness walk was bullshit. Like, I'm
Right.
like, oh, they up there cashing out, making money. Like, everybody knows there's breast cancer. But when you really find out about how much of that money has gone towards research, cancer research, putting into finding out, like, giving money to these private research entities to do cancer cellular research, it is important. And I'm not saying that, we can do black awareness walks and give towards medicine to fix black people, but maybe we can do these and raise money to really put a dent in what needs to happen in these communities.
Well,
You know,
that would that takes mindset change too, because we've had recent years movements that we've tried, but because our mindset isn't there, We always allow something and anything to taint the movement.
Well, I think the thing is, dog, and here's the thing. Let's just stop calling it a movement. It's not a movement. It's life.
It's
Like
like,
like I don't think Malcolm X woke up and said, "Let me make this the speech for the movement." Like this was about making black people better. Like it became a black power movement. Like those are things that I think get labeled by the white people so they can label it. It's like, "Oh, look at them. They having this movement." Like ain't nobody moving nowhere. We still stay at the same house. Like
well, the speech, the tone provides uh it provides a reason and fear and then a reason to taint, like I said, taint the movement and or
the idea. See,
taint the
yeah,
idea even and make and like you said, and I feel because again, as a whole, our mindset is not there, mixed of course with all the other things that we've said. The minute there's any pebble, ripple in what's going on, we sway.
yeah,
We get scared, we run. No, then you see people fighting about, like you said, it's a movement. Well, why is this? Like you said,
yeah.
well, why not just do better?
And that's the thing.
Why not
I
just
agree.
do better? Like I
I
don't care
agree.
what we calling it.
And we have in Dallas, we have a lot of people that they consider leaders
It's the side
in
eye
the
for me.
black community, but
Okay.
it seems like these people are always just trying to argue over what the hot topic is right now. They're always trying to be in the scene. It's I don't even know what the little high yellow boy's name is. It's always doing stuff here in Dallas, but he's always trying to be in the scene. He's always trying to be saying something, and he's black activist. He's a
Well,
black
I would
activist.
well, I would argue you have to be on the scene to make the noise.
Yeah,
Hello?
but you know what? You have to be on the scene. Sometimes you don't need to make the noise. You just need to make the action happen.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't think
how
I don't think the Black Panthers idea in the beginning was to make the noise. I think it was just to fix the scene. And I think the problem that we have now is everybody wants to be on Facebook. Look at me. I'm here. We got a rally. We got a march. We got this.
well,
Like,
I'm just being devil's advocate. That's
yeah,
where the people are.
yeah. Now, well, the people
How they
want to
gonna
be.
know how they gonna know how to come?
Well, see, I don't say to not get on the media to tell them to come, but you can't be self-serving with it,
Now
you
that
know,
I
and
agree.
and that's what I'm saying. You have a lot of these people in the community, black pastors, that are self-serving with this. Because I mean, I'm sorry, there's mega churches in these areas that are extremely poor. How does this one church area have more money per capita than the 25 blocks around this church? Like, I'm not saying that these people are not running an efficient business, they are. But I'm saying I still think there's more you can do for your community besides just standing on a pulpit on Sunday giving a self-gratifying speech. Like,
Well, but then that goes back to how do you again, I don't know none of this.
yeah,
How do you know they're not?
look, I'm sorry, I don't see it.
It ain't making noise. That's what you just said,
I
though.
don't know. It's not
You
making
know what I mean?
noise.
It's
It's
not
change.
making
It's
noise. So
changing action. If the
but
community
might
is,
be it may be moving action, is just not making noise. So
look,
you don't hear it and see it. I'm just saying, you
I
know,
would like to see, if I don't see it, then it
okay,
didn't happen. Like
okay.
only thing that happens that I don't see is God. That's it.
That's
That's the
you
only that's the only, only person gets a pass for it has happened. I don't see it. It's God. Everybody else, you got to
well,
do something.
you do have to do so no, you no, and again, I'm just I don't feel one necessarily different. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
giving
Yeah.
you a hard time.
I
But
know, and
no,
it's good. You have to because that's the only way. Um, if we don't give each other a hard time, sometimes that's the only way to get a really good answer out. Because like I'm really starting to think about this Black awareness walk thing to like really start vibing and getting some money for different things in communities. Not saying it's gonna change it, but like maybe it is just the fact that like we need to push it to where every year they're like, well, we're gonna shut down North Park Mall because the black people are gonna walk around it for like, an hour, and they've raised, $20 million for, you know,
well,
black
here's the thing.
awareness
I
program.
think one thing at this point, going back to the powers that be, and the noise. Anytime we get too loud or too much movement,
Hmm.
there are gonna be powers that be to try to stop it.
Oh yeah.
So I would argue we don't need no walks. We don't need no day. We don't need, at this point, we know,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And at this point, we all should know. Do your part silently with discipline and efficiency, and quietly with power, we can make a difference.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And look, that is the perfect note to end the entire conversation because, in all honesty, with everything that I've decided, it requires me to do a whole lot of work. And it's way easier if everybody just does their part,
That's it.
play as a team.
Plays a
So
team. Yeah.
let's go with your answer. I think that's the best one. So look, hopefully we've solved the problems of the black
Oh,
community.
no, that was not our intention. I was not given that memo.
It's
That's what we
like,
were trying to do in 50 minutes, in
yeah,
just 50 minutes.
but if we've empowered you to do something in your community to be awesome or to improve it, then that's super awesome. And I hope that you share that. Uh, oh, I kind of like this. One is a meeting, two is a conspiracy, three is a riot. Well, I'm always down for three or more because you say about making noise, but I'm like, you might not want to get us
Yeah.
making noise because
Mm.
we could get pretty good at that. But
Mhm.
yeah, if we've empowered you to do anything in your community, then that's great. If we've empowered you just to be angry and go do some violence, then don't
Don't
tell
do that.
don't say
Don't do
we did
that.
that because we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Go do something great. Put a gun down. Somebody makes you mad, walk away. You know, talk it out, walk it
Let that
out.
ego go. You gotta
Let
let
the
that
ego
ego
go, dog.
let the
What
ego
go home, play with your kids because if you're not there, then you can't play with them anymore. So
they're gonna
uh
connect to something.
yep, and probably some bad. So anyway, y'all have a good night. We'll catch
Have
you
a good
next
night.
week. Cyber dating, unless something else in the world pops up that we need to get y'all, talk a little bit about. So we out.
Bye.